Inclusivity in focus, leading the way in mental health and special needs care. The panelists are Begi Abadula, Chief Executive Officer, Deborah Foundation. Victoria Moya, Business Leader, Entrepreneur, McDonald's Franchisee. And the moderator is CNBC Africa presenter, Kiamo Msipele.
When we think about growth, when we think about economic progress and prosperity, we often express it in terms like the GDP, investment, policy initiatives, and what needs to be done. But often the care economy or the lens of care is not associated with growth, but from womb to tomb. We know that some of the greatest leaders have been shaped by their first caregiver, which often is a woman. And it's quite also important to note that according to the International Labour Organization, it considers the care economy quite integral and central to sustainable development and economic progress, and it promises 299 million jobs by the year 2035 if it is met with the adequate investment and attention it needs. So to the both of you as people who are influencing and shaping this space, when we look at the world, but of course Africa, where do we lie in terms of where we are placing the care economy and what also needs to happen? I'd like to open with you, Becky.
Okay, thank you so much. So regarding caregiving, usually the mothers are the only one giving care. So I'm going to talk about children with intellectual disabilities, for example. So usually when a child is born with intellectual disabilities, always the responsibility falls on the mother. And this mother cannot work, she cannot go outside, she cannot meet people because she's always taking care of the child. And the system is not ready for her to join the workforce system because she has to take care of her child and there's no one to take care of her child for her. So if situations are better for her, she could become part of the workforce. If the employment opportunities are there for her, she can work and the economy gets better. So for example, I used to care for my sister with Down syndrome. She's called, her name is Deborah, and that's how the foundation was established. So back then, because my family supported me, I got to do my education and everything, but other people, their families might not support them, so they might not get the right education. They might be at home still taking care of their child, like the kids, their siblings, taking care of their siblings. So this could be improved in ways that people could think of the mothers, like think of the families with intellectual disabilities, and they could be part of the social workforce if the employment opportunities are better for them. Like if there are someone to take care of their kids or an organization to take in the kids, to teach them and to do the cares throughout the day, then the mothers or the family members can be at work. Then when they come back home, they take care of their kids.
And Becky, I think you're not doing the work, or rather this conversation justice, because I understand from your perspective, you are actively helping upskill people who are living with disabilities and shaping them and building them for the economy, and also just kind of setting the precedent that they also have something to contribute and something to share. And that's something that I certainly want us to expand further. But I want to bring you in, Victoria. Of course, as Becky said, it's largely placed, the onus of care, the responsibility of care is largely placed on women, but it often is viewed from a lens of moral obligation, or rather social responsibility. From your position, at home, at an influential at McDonald's South Africa, where does kind of that disconnect, or where does that kind of connection needs to happen about where we place the care economy in the workplace?
I think, thank you, Kiamo, for a good question. I think it's important for us to step back as women and look at as caregivers, that caregivers starts from home. I would look at it as an ecosystem that spans from home, school, institutions, government corridors, corporate corridors, everywhere. So it's not a moral issue. It's not something that it deserves to live on against the wall where it's called a value or anything else, but it's something that needs to be woven into our everyday communication and practices. So caregiving starts at home, so we can't run away from that.
Yeah, yeah. And because you say it's such a fundamental part of the lives of the employees and the workers and the people in the organization, and that it begins at home, I understand you also have been shaped by someone very close to you in how you lead, in how you show up at work, and some of the policies you're also implementing as a result. Could you share with us the indelible mark that care has had in your life? I understand your father's been quite an influence in your life, and how you carry that as a leader in the workplace.
Thank you for that. My father, I think both my parents were very strong role models for me. But my father, I think, stood out in my formative years because the relationship that I had with him was, in hindsight, was special because he, at a very tender age, my father, did what all the other previous speakers earlier today said about taking a seat on the table. Being included and being treated and belonging where you are seen and heard. I was a very young child, and my father, inspired confidence in me that I can actually start trading at a young age of tender 9-year-old girl. I started driving at 11 years old, and I think I became an entrepreneur because of some of the seeds that were planted in me, because I was allowed to sit on the table and listen to conversations that at the time, and I grew up under apartheid system, at a time where children were playing outside. My father saw to it that, you know what, come and sit on the table and listen to important things that are being shared. But I think what I learned the most, Kiamo, was that he allowed me to have a voice, which is why I love today's session. He allowed me to think and my thoughts to be vocalized and people to say, oh, I think that's a good idea, or maybe that's not going to work. But the fact that I was allowed to have an opinion and share it, I think created something in me that inspired my leadership today, which I also can pass on to others as well.
And here you are as a result of all of the investment that was made to you. I want to stay on the familial lens and also the role that I guess when care is seen as an imperative, right, to the investment of our people. Moving back to you, Becky, I understand the role of your foundation, Deborah Foundation, as a result of your younger sister, right, as you mentioned, who is living with or who has Down syndrome. And I understand in our earlier conversations, you said you have been very instrumental in almost building the social appetite and understanding that people who are navigating life differently from all of us have an important role to play. Just give us some tangible examples on how you've changed perceptions in Ethiopia.
So as Deborah Foundation, we work on 3 pillars: health, education, and policy advocacy. So regarding education, we train these individuals with Down syndrome, above 18, the ones that are above 18, to get jobs. These individuals, whenever they come to the foundation, they say that they feel that as if they're a burden to their family because their family has to take care of them, they have to feed them, and they don't have anywhere to go and they don't have anywhere to earn their money. So when we thought about that, we created a system where we could train them vocational trainings. We can give them vocational trainings and hire them in institutions, big institutions like the Ethiopian Airlines, Ethio Telecom, like big organizations. These adults now can earn their own money. They even support their mothers because most mothers in Ethiopia, they come from a low economic status mainly because they have a child with Down syndrome and they can't go out and work. And most of them are left by their husbands saying, this issue, this intellectual disability, the child with intellectual disability came because of the sins the mother did or the sins her family did. They never take responsibilities. So to make awareness, to give awareness to the society, these adults are hired, they earn their own money, and the community knows that there are adults with Down syndrome that can work, that can do anything that we are doing, that everyone is doing, so that they are included and they are earners.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're part of the society.
Yeah. But of course, I wonder, and I'm sure a number of people are also wondering, you're at home training, upskilling, and readying people for the workforce. Victoria could argue you're on the other end, readying yourself to, accept this influx of people ready to take up arms and work. When we look at the lens of mental health, special needs, does the current climate allow for that? Are people accepting? Are those that are entering the workforce found that they're understood? Are you finding there's a synergy as well? Victoria, if you could take this.
Well, I think, being an entrepreneur, and with McDonald's, we are very privileged that we can impact employment in this country by taking young people who are coming into job employment for the first time. And what we are finding, especially my personal experience, is that we are getting people that are coming to our places of work not ready to enter into a place of work because they haven't been prepared mentally, socially not prepared. They might be academically okay and prepared, but the mental piece is the one that I find is lacking, and it comes, Kiamo, from the lack of confidence or lack of self-esteem, because we take in young people who maybe had dreams to go to university, college, and so on, and for whatever social reasons, they are unable to continue with their dreams. So that pause kind of overwhelms them and think, oh my gosh, my life is now coming to an end because I can't continue with the things that I had to do. And they end up having to find an employment. So they come to us. And I think we are in a privileged position. When we receive them, we do give training, we do give coaching, but as a mother, I still find the gap of that person being overwhelmed and seeking that closure, which they don't know where they're going to find. And it comes from the fact that they don't feel they belong. Even in the workplace, you can train them. They can execute the work, but they don't feel good enough themselves. So you can see that there is potential there. And if you as an employer and a business person, a business owner, do not intentionally design your own processes to be able to unearth that fear and give them the validation and the confirmation that, listen, whatever brought you here to my doorstep, you are safe now. And from here, we are going to invest in you. And that takes them back. Because someone says, I couldn't afford to study, I couldn't afford to do certain things, and here's a company that tells me, no, we will do the stuff. And one of the things that I love to tell my new recruits, I say to them, listen, this is a massive brand, okay? And I travel the world. Whatever you train here, if you ever want to travel all over the world and you want to try and find a job anywhere else, we will train you enough that your skill set, when you leave here, is a global skill set that can get you entry somewhere else. So, and it gives them an empowerment of saying, okay, maybe I can push from here. And it all comes in from the fact that they didn't feel they belonged and they were worthy to push through the doors of whatever they were dreaming. And nobody actually tells them, you know what, sometimes detours are okay. You couldn't get into university or college, you detoured this way, you can always find your work back if you find steps that connect you there. But I think the crucial thing that I've learned, which also for myself in my own personal journey, is that if you don't know who you are and you have not spent time to figure this out, and it's an exercise, it can't be just like, oh, I am so-and-so and I'm born by this person and I'm from this clan and this nationality. It's beyond that. It's connecting with the essence of who you are, so that it enables you to connect with the gift that you have. There is no single person in this earth, Kiamo, that can do what you do, which was designed only for you. You know, and the minute you connect with that, somehow the fog lifts, and you are able to push forward, and then you try to connect the dots as you go along.
So I guess it's about making sure there's fertile ground and being an enabling environment for those that are looking to success. Becky, I want your insights, and I actually also want to rewind from an earlier conversation, the AI panel, where a lady said that often when there are disruptions or when the world moves towards a certain direction at pace, often women are not in line or in the race at the same pace as our male counterparts. When we take a look at this, I mean, AI is coming onto the fore. Workers have to upskill themselves and have to constantly keep abreast of these changes. When we look at that and zero in, what needs to happen, and is there an opportunity, particularly in special needs development and the care economy, to take advantage of that?
Yes, there is. For example, since I'm an advocate for children with Down syndrome and intellectual disabilities, most of my examples will be around that. These children with intellectual disabilities, they are visual learners. So we give trainings to the mothers on how to raise these children, how to teach them to party, how to dress themselves. So this method of teaching is not as effective, but if we involve this technology, AI, we could make videos, animations to teach this mothers, to teach the children on how to do their daily activities, daily learning skills, because we, as a country in Ethiopia, it's very hard to train a lot of mothers. They even don't hear that there are organizations like ours to help them. They don't know, they don't have any information. So to even pass on this information in a mass way, we can use AI technologies, we can use videos, because these are the most effective ways to do these things. And also there are pre-screening tools that we want to use in Ethiopia. Still not there, but usually children with intellectual disabilities, they're not pre-screened. They don't know, the moms don't know what to do after they have their child, so they keep them at home. So they don't know they don't learn how to read, they don't learn how to write, they don't learn how to interact with other people. So this AI tools can help teach these children and the mothers even what to do at home, so that they can be part of the society. Even the moms cannot be left out with using this technology. So
I actually also wanted to explore, Victoria, also on your front, on how you're not only taking advantage of AI as in the position of leadership, but of course as a way to help upskill and develop, like you said, develop your workers, that beyond the confines of McDonald's South Africa, when you leave, you have a globally competitive resume to boast about. But in closing quickly, ladies, when we look at inclusivity, it's an all-encompassing word, and depending on where you are, it means something different. But when we truly apply inclusivity in the workplace and largely with society at large, if you were president for one day, what is the one policy initiative you'd place to ensure that, Victoria?
Well, firstly, if I was a president looking at future nominee, if I were to be a president, I would not look at inclusivity as a policy. I think inclusivity is more than a policy. I think policy is a subsection of that. I would go, Kiamo, even further and say it's infrastructure. So when you're building an ecosystem as a president, I would look at all the pillars of my government, from home, of course, and see that the people in a home environment, in a community environment, are they supported with inclusivity? Do people actually understand what inclusivity is? Because if I were president, then I would ensure that each and every single home gets to understand that inclusivity is an imperative for the nation, in the sense that it's neurological. It's not only moral, it's neurological. It's been proven, there's lots of research on neuroscience that tells how inclusivity actually supports the brain positively and negatively. So once a child in a home or an environment gets supported in an inclusivity manner, their brain works better, they learn better, they adapt better, because the sense of belonging drives them there. And the rejection does exactly the opposite. It's the low self-esteem, the low confidence comes in. And if a single family understands that a child who is seeking comfort, compassion and empathy in a home, I would make sure that every single home as a president gets that first, because it's like health, If you take care of a vaccination and making sure babies are vaccinated, then you make sure that the society doesn't get sick in old age and mature age. So you do the same with inclusion. You take it, zoom in at the beginning at home, and then of course you make sure that all the ecosystem, schools, institutions, government, it's woven in as an infrastructure, not just as a moral compass or a policy, but it speaks to every single level of the ecosystem of that country. And then it will lift up. And you give it to women, and women will run with it.
Women will run with it. So follow through. Certainly resonates. So follow through and make sure it is developed right from grassroots all the way throughout the infrastructure. Becky, your closing thoughts. How would you like to see society embracing more inclusivity?
First of all, this stage is inclusivity, because we usually don't get to talk about children with intellectual disabilities, children with any other disabilities, because always it's talk about business. So first, inclusivity, I study here. And second part is workplaces. Workplaces, mothers can have a comfortable working hours, comfortable working places, even daycare situations when they have younger babies, and all the support they can get it from their workplace, because the workforce, they need women, and women can do things men can do as well, and even better.
I agree.
Yes, even better, yes.
Ladies, I think certainly I have taken from this conversation that there's so many opportunities at play. There's so many opportunities that are at the disposal of everyone if they actually, take a vested interest and develop care and see it as an economic imperative. So to the decision makers in the room, I hope this was, something that would be food for thought later on as you continue on. But ladies, that's unfortunately all that we have time for. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.